Hello and welcome to the third episode of Is This Real? The dislikes, by the way, on the second episode only make me want to do this more. Today's topic on Is This Real? A very popular creepypasta, Squidward's suicide. That's right, we're diving right back in to the last episode creepypasta genre. By the way, sorry if I sound really bored, I just woke up and I'm really tired. Alright then, let's do this. I'm just gonna say this real quickly just to get it off my chest. There's a lot of versions of Squidward suicide. They all claim to be the real thing, so I'm just gonna add what I think is the closest thing we get to original creepypasta. Alright, let's do this. I just want to start off by saying if you want an answer at the end, prepare to be disappointed. There just isn't one. I was an intern at Nickelodeon Studios, of course you were, for a year in 2005 for my degree in animation. It wasn't paid, of course. Most internships aren't, but it did have some perks beyond education. To adults, it may not seem like a big one, but most kids at the time would crap themselves over it. Now, since I worked directly with the editors and animators, I got to view the new episodes days before they aired. I'll get right to it without getting too many unnecessary details. They had very recently made the Spongebob movie, and the entire staff was somewhat sapped of creativity, so it took them longer to start up the season. But the delay lasted longer for more upsetting reasons. There was a problem with the series 4 premiere that set everyone and everything back for several months. Me and two other interns were in the editing room along with the lead animators and sound editors for the final cut. We received the copy that was supposed to be Fear of the Krabby Patty and gathered around the screen to watch. Now, given that it isn't the final yet, animators often put up a mock title card, sort of an inside joke for us, with phony, oftentimes lewd titles. Nothing particularly funny, but work-related chuckles. So when we saw the title cards who were suicide, we didn't think it more than a morbid joke. One of the interns did a small throat laugh at it. The happy-go-lucky music plays as normal. The story began with Squidward practicing his clarinet, hitting a few sour notes like normal. We hear SpongeBob laughing outside and Squidward stops, yelling at him to keep it down as he has a concert that night and needs to practice. SpongeBob says okay and goes to see Sandy with Patrick. The bubble splash screen comes up and we see the ending of Squidward's concert. This is when things begin to seem off. When playing, a few frames repeat themselves, but the sound doesn't. At this point, sound is synced up with animation. So yes, that's not common. But when he stops playing, the sound finishes as the skip never happened. There was a slight murmuring in the crowd before they began to boo him. Not normal cartoon booing that is common to the show, but you can hear very clearly there's malice in it. Squidward's in full frame and looks very visibly afraid. The shot goes to the crowd, with SpongeBob in center frame, and he too is booing, very much unlike him. Isn't the oddest thing though. What is odd is everyone had hyper-realistic eyes. Hyper-realistic eyes! Very detailed. Clearly not shots of real people's eyes, but something that's a little bit more real than CGI. The pupils were red. Someone was looking at each other, obviously confused. But since we weren't the writers, we didn't question its appeal to children yet. The shot goes to Squidward sitting on the edge of his bed, looking very sad. The view of his porthole window is a night sky, so it isn't very long after the concert. The unsettling part is that at this point there is no sound. Literally no sound. Not even the feedback from the speakers in the room. It's as if the speakers were turned off, though their status showed them working perfectly. He just sat there, blinking, in the silence for about 30 seconds. Then he started to sob softly. He put his hands over his eyes and cried quietly for a few minutes more. All the while, a sound in the background very slowly growing from nothing to barely audible. It sounded like a slight breeze through a forest. The screen slowly begins to zoom on his face. By slow, I mean it's only noticeable if you look at shots 10 seconds apart side by side. His sobbing gets louder, more full of hurt and anger. The screen then twitches a bit, as if it twitches on itself for a split second then back to normal. The wind through the trees sound gets slowly louder and more severe, as if a storm is brewing somewhere. The eerie part is the sound, as Squidward's sobbing sounded real, as if the sound wasn't coming from the speakers, but as if the speakers were holes the sound was coming through from the other side. As good as the sound as Studio likes to have, they don't purchase the equipment to be that good to produce sound of that quality. Below the sound of the wind and sobbing, very faint, Something sounded like laughing. It came at odd intervals and never lasted more than a second, so I had a hard time pinning it. We watched the show twice, so pardon me if things sound too specific, but I have had time to think about them. After 30 seconds of this, the screen blurred and twitched violently as something flashed over the screen, as if a single frame was replaced. The lead animation editor paused and rewound frame by frame. What we saw was horrible. It was a still photo of a dead child. Come on now, I'm not gonna say this part. This part was just disgusting. The most upsetting part was that there was a shadow of the photographer. There was no crime tape, no evidence, tags or markers, and the angle was completely off of a shot designed to be evidence. It would seem the photographer was the person responsible for the child's death. We were of course mortified, but pressed on, hoping that it was just a sick joke. This screen flipped back to Squidward, still sobbing louder than ever, and half body in frame. There was now what appeared to be blood running down his face from his eyes. The wind sounded now as if it were that part of a gale blowing through the forest. There were even snapping sounds of branches, the laughing, a deep baritone, lasting at longer intervals and coming more frequently. After about 20 seconds, the screen again twisted and showed a single frame photo. After 5 seconds after the second photo played, Squidward went silent, as did all sound, like it was when this scene started. He put his tentacles down, and his eyes were now done in hyperrealism. Hyperrealism! Like the others were in the beginning of this episode. They were bleeding, bloodshot, and pulsating. He just stared at the screen, as if watching the viewer. After about 10 seconds, he started sobbing, this time not covering his eyes. The sound was piercing and loud, and most fear-inducing of all is his sobbing was mixed with screams. Uh, oh my god, I could not keep a straight face on that image. Oh my god. The lead sound editor told us to stop. He had to call in the creator to see this. Mr. Hillenberg, rest in peace, arrived within about 15 minutes. He was confused and asked why he was called down here, so the editor just continued the episode. Once the few frames were shown, all screaming, all sound again, stopped. Squidward was just standing at the viewer. Full frame of the face for about 30 seconds. The shot quickly panned down, and the deep voice said, "Do it." And we see in Squidward's hands a shotgun. He immediately puts the gun in his mouth and pulls the trigger. Realistic blood, realistic blood, and brain matter splatters the wall behind him and his bed, and he flies back with the force. The last 5 seconds of the episode show his body on the bed, and on his side, one eye dangling on what's left of the head above the floor, staring blankly at it. Then the episode ends. Mr. Hillenberg was obviously very angry at this. He demanded to know what the heck was going on. Most people left the room at this point, so it was just a handful of us to watch it again. Viewing the episode twice only served to imprint the entirety of it in my mind. It caused me horrible nightmares. I'm sorry, I said. And that's Cougar Suicide. What do I think? I think it's bullcrap. I'm sorry if I sounded uninterested while reading this, because I don't like this creepypasta. It's highly overrated. First off, in season 3, it claims that the very first episode aired on March 22nd, 2002 from the wiki. Why am I talking about season 3? You'll see. The Spongebob movie was officially released on November 19th, 2004. Now for season 4. Season 4's first episode aired on May 6th, 2005. In the creepypasta, it claims that season 4 had a big delay. Well, let me tell you that season 4 was released 4 months after the movie, and for season 3, it took 5 months. So, season 4 was released quicker than season 3, and the delay was never a thing. Boom! That should be enough evidence that the creepypasta is fake. Another obvious one, is that why would the writer post this story on the creepypasta wiki out of all things? Another obvious reason is that the whole story about Squidward suicide and all that could have been on the front newspapers and all that. We'll see it everywhere, newspapers, everywhere. This should be enough to tell you guys that Squidward suicide is fake. You guys can go to sleep again. Thank you guys for watching. Comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. Wait, you still can't go to sleep? Are you talking about the Spongebob Bootleg episode? What if I were to tell you that I can do that? You guys would be happy? I knew it. Sit back and relax, because we have a bonus creepypasta. Gotta stop doing that. This is the Spongebob Bootleg episode. Let's get into the creepypasta. This image was taken from a split-second frame in a corrupted bootleg of the Spongebob episode Dumped. Other than the image, the rest of the video is compromised of incomprehensible jumbles of colors, static, or just black screens. The audio seems to be a heavily distorted version of the audio from the original episode, with loud, droning buzzes occasionally interrupting it. The bootleg tape itself was found by a group of 5 urban exploring teenagers in a trash can within an abandoned mental institution. Of these 5 individuals, 2 have committed suicide, 1 has gone missing, 1 refuses to comment on the tape, and the last hastily agreed to give paranormal investigators the tape shortly after being interviewed about the suicide and disappearance of the other 3 people. The current whereabouts of the tape are unknown, and many who stare at this image for a long enough period of time claim to see Spongebob blink. The teenager that has gone missing was found dead in the dustbin a year after the discovery of the tape. Didn't see it blink? Good. This creepypasta is fake. Many people have claimed that the Spongebob in this image does blink. But however, you guys, your eyes were deceived. Those were GIFs. See, in the GIFs, the Spongebob would blink at a certain time, and then it would repeat all over again. But in the photos, he doesn't blink at all. Even if I stare at it for a long period of time, he doesn't blink. See, that's what I like about this creepypasta. Illusions. The writer took illusions to his advantage and made a GIF and a photo, so that people would say that, hey, the SpongeBob does blink, while others say he doesn't. It's great. But no matter how good the creepypasta was to me, I shall not be deceived by such images. Yeah, unlike Squidward Suicide, I loved the SpongeBob Bootleg episode. For some reason, I was kind of fascinated by it. However, there's a lot of SpongeBob Bootleg episode videos that are on YouTube. I don't even know which one's the real one or what's the closest one we can get to the actual creepypasta one. I genuinely don't know, because I've seen all of the videos. I did not see a single image of the SpongeBob image that you're seeing right now. I did not see a single one in the videos, so I don't know which one's the real one. Reminds me of SpongeBob in the Cave episode. Brrr. I will talk about that in a future episode, or it will be in a video. But yeah, thanks for watching, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! Sorry if that just gave you nightmares. Sorry about that. Just wanted to do a jump scare. Sorry.